Welcome back. We're talking about the CIA's relatively new role as economic spy master, and whether or not this is a job the agency's capable of doing or should be doing at all. Joining me now by satellite from the campus of Stanford University in Palo Alto, Philip Zelikow, a professor at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Professor Zelikow has just completed a study of economic espionage. He was previously with the State Department for many years, analyzing, as he puts it, guns and bomb stuff. Welcome to Inside Business, Professor.
Thank you.
Now, having studied the whole area of economic espionage, what exactly is it that the CIA is up to?
Well, what the CIA has done and what it has done since the time the agency was formed is to analyze all those economic issues that affect the intelligence assessments they make of other countries. Suppose you want to know where China is going over the next 10 years. Surely you have to look at the Chinese economy. Well, they do that. You want to know where Russia is going to be 5 years from now. Surely you've got to do some economic analysis of Russia. They do that. You want to know whether economic sanctions will work on Serbia. Well, you better think about some economic analysis of Serbia. CIA does that too. And then they're also interested in the trade position of the United States and in some of the disputes we have in negotiations on macroeconomic issues with our leading economic colleagues.
Now, it's my impression that President Clinton has been pushing the agency to take a stronger role in economic espionage. I get the sense from what you're saying that the agency isn't doing anything different than what it's always done.
The agency has always devoted a lot of resources to these issues, especially in the 50s and 60s when they needed enormous resources to try to understand the Soviet and Chinese economies because the governments of those states weren't really giving out any information of value and that was really reliable about those economies. But President Clinton stressed that economic security is an important definition of national security, and the CIA, which sees itself as a service agency, is anxious to please the new president and is trying very hard to come up with information that its policymakers say are important to our national security. They figure that must mean more economic information. They're working hard with similar resources to what they had before Clinton took office. They're just trying to do more with it.
More economic information. Of what type?
Of all types, really. The administration hasn't given them a clear definition saying this is the economic information they want. They say, look, these trade negotiations are very important to us. Is there anything you can tell us? We want to know about fiscal policy in Japan. What does the Japanese government's budget really mean? What kind of subsidies are they really directing? What is the right estimate that we should have of the situation, say, on auto parts or medical equipment? And the CIA does the best it can to come up with answers to those questions.
In the case of the Japanese auto trade negotiations, the best it can turned out to be, by many published reports, corporate espionage, spying on Japanese auto industry executives and their talks with Japanese government leaders in order to brief the U.S. negotiators on the Japanese position.
I'm not aware of any information that the CIA has been deliberately spying on the Japanese automobile industry. Certainly the CIA collects intelligence about the Japanese government and tries to help our government understand the Japanese government.
The reports, though, in this case, which I understand you may not be able to confirm, but the reports that have been fairly widespread have indicated that the CIA was in fact spying during the auto talks with the United States.
Yes, but those talks were with the Japanese government, not between the U.S. government and the Japanese auto industry. And I'm not certain that the CIA has targeted private industry for a systematic program of intelligence collection.
Should it?
I don't think that they should. I think that they should try to counter Japanese industrial espionage against our companies. When countries like Japan and France deliberately send agents out to ferret out industrial secrets from our companies, CIA should work with our companies to help stop that. And they do some of that now, a good deal of it, as many corporate executives could testify. However, I don't think that the CIA should get into a deliberate program of industrial espionage.
Why not?
It creates a lot of legal problems. Can I give you an example?
Sure.
Suppose the CIA was asked to spy on Airbus, the European aircraft consortium that competes with Boeing in world markets. They might spy on Airbus and find out that, of course, Airbus is pricing their jet aircrafts based on engine prices. But the engines are not made in Europe. The engines are made by an American corporation, which actually to be the case. That means that the CIA is finding itself in the business of collecting information at taxpayer expense on an American corporation. That would raise serious legal and political problems.
Clearly, though, American corporations don't have a piece of the business everywhere.
They don't have a piece of the business everywhere, but you can't always anticipate where they're going to have that piece of the business. When you set up a program to collect information, you're basically sending people out and targeting assets to learn about these things. In other words, you're sweeping this net, and you can't always predict the things you're going to catch up in that net. It's foreseeable that in the global trading environment, any systematic program against other major multinational corporations is inevitably going to pick up material that has to do with American businesses as well as the foreign ones. There are other issues too, though, which is that many American companies are worried that this would simply it would legitimize government war over industrial espionage, ratcheting up the industrial espionage being launched against them. And if you talk to some of those corporation executives, including at Boeing, for example, they'll tell you they don't want the government in this business. One more problem is that if the government collects all this information at public expense, how does it distribute that information to corporations? Does it make all the information equally available to all corporations? Well, surely it has to, since they're all taxpayers. Does it make the information public so that consumers can be aware of it too? If you begin to work through the issues, you see that they're very complex indeed.
How good is the CIA at economic espionage?
It varies. In some areas, they're quite good. They're quite good in understanding, say, the Japanese auto industry, for example, mostly because of their ability to work on open source material and develop more authoritative opinions about that source material than people, say, at Morgan Stanley or in the private sector can. Some of it is because they use a whole variety of information, maybe a little bit of clandestine information that just provides that extra piece in the puzzle for something they picked up from embassy reporting that they then put together with newspaper articles. There's somebody who then puts all those pieces in the puzzle together. Maybe only one of those pieces come from clandestine intelligence gathering. And somebody has to put that puzzle together and present the picture to American decision makers. And very often, that agency, the agency with the resources to do it, is CIA.
All right, so you're making the case that basically the CIA is able to provide some help to the U.S. government when it deals with issues of policy. Is there any help that the CIA is able to provide at all to private business in the United States, and is that a proper role for it?
Yes, the CIA can provide help for private business in at least two ways. First, the CIA can and should make information that's publicly available that they can declassify and say, look, here's what we know about the business environment in Eastern Europe. These are things that we can tell you. We can gather this information, and if some of it doesn't have to be classified, we'll release it.
All right.
So that our businesses can profit from that, and they do this.
And they do. I'm afraid we are out of time, unfortunately. I'd like to thank you both for joining us on Inside Business. Philip Zelikow, the Kennedy School of Harvard, and also thanks to Stanford University for the satellite feed. Next on Inside Business, a little old-fashioned cloak and dagger stuff. A virtually undetectable counterfeit $100 bill is circulating, and there's concern it may be coming from overseas. That story right after the break.